This is my 2015 McLaren 650S Spider, and this is everything you need to know before buying yourself either a McLaren 650S or a Mp4-12c. These cars are notorious for being quote-unquote terrible to own, they're notorious for being maintenance nightmares, and they're notorious for spending more time in the shop than they do on the road. And while there's some truth in that, it does come from somewhere, they are significantly better than a guy would think, and my experience with this car proves exactly that. I bought this car only about 4 months ago, but in the previous 4 months, I have put nearly 13,000 kilometers on this car, and overall it has done very, very well. It is quite ironic that I say that because I have done a lot of maintenance stuff to the car, but it is not the car's fault in a lot of ways. It's a little bit unfortunate circumstance and a little bit my not doing due diligence, but that's why we're here now having this conversation and making this video so you guys do not make the same mistakes that I do and you get yourselves into a fantastic McLaren that you can enjoy putting a ton of mileage on very, very worry-free. When it comes to the P11 McLaren cars, including 675LT, 650S, and Mp4-12c, all coupes and spiders, there's a handful of things to be aware of. And I kind of screwed up not being aware of a few of those things when I bought this car. These cars do not like to sit, they like mileage a lot. And personally, I wouldn't shy away from one of these cars that has substantial mileage. I actually know of a local 650S that's got about 90,000 kilometers on it, and that car sold recently for still very, very good money. They like to be driven. I actually have a friend in the States as well. His name's Marcos. If you go look him up on Instagram, it is GT Mac and Cheesy is his handle, but he's got a McLaren GT, so a little bit newer, but still very similar in what it is. It's running over 1,000 wheel horsepower as his daily driver with 180,000 kilometers on it. These cars love to be driven. If you drive them and take care of them, they are very, very happy. That being said though, there's definitely a few things to be making note of, especially if the cars have been sitting. Working our way around the exterior, there is a few obvious places to look, both McLaren specific and not. Of course, all of these cars, at least the 650Ss, not the 12Cs, but all of these cars have carbon ceramics. And if you're looking at a carbon ceramic equipped car, it is important to inspect the rotors because these rotors theoretically last the lifetime of the car, but they do have a tendency to be susceptible to cracks and chips and things, and that's really the only way to hurt these outside of letting the pads run out and not swapping them. So it is important to inspect them because, of course, if you have to replace these are very expensive. We did not have to. These have been good, but it is worthy of note. The next thing hides in here that we can't see right behind, and that would be the suspension. And that on this specific car is something that bit us in the ass because I work at a dealership. I bought this car through the dealership, sight unseen. We sourced it from a different dealership in British Columbia, and the dealership that we sourced it from kind of tried to screw us a little bit. And when the car arrived, it needed all 4 corners of the suspension replaced because all 4 shocks were leaking, and that is a very bad thing on these cars. These cars have a very, very cool thing they call PCC, which is proactive chassis control, and it is essentially all 4 corners of the suspension are hydraulically linked, and it can move fluid wherever it needs to have the car be as comfortable or stiff as needed and to keep the car perfectly balanced. It's a very cool system, but it's very expensive. And the couple things that are known to fail is both leaking as well as the accumulators, which is a very common thing. If you've heard of McLarens, you've heard of accumulators. And to be honest, it's a big chunk why these cars have depreciated further as the Super Series than the Sport Series 570S. It's because the 570S, even though it is kind of a worse car in a lot of ways, it doesn't have the PCC suspension and the accumulators aren't a thing, and it makes values higher because people are less afraid of them. But the PCC is very, very cool. You just have to be aware of what to do and how to take care of it if it does indeed need replaced. And there's a lot of aftermarket solutions out there that are not so bad. When I looked into replacing all 4 corners of the suspension on my new McLaren when it arrived to me leaking, when we called McLaren, it was about a $40,000 Canadian problem to fix, to get 4 new struts, and have them installed. That being said, there's a wondrous company in Florida called RMT, or Rebuild Master Tech, that rebuilds the suspension. So this car, immediately after it arrived to me, it was down for about a month as we pulled the suspension off, shipped it down to the States, had it rebuilt, reinstalled, rebled, and whatever else. But when they did their rebuild, they replaced the accumulators, they replaced all the seals, and essentially they take the factory suspension and make it as good as new. And so it is no longer a problem. That service only costs about $6,500 Canadian instead of about $40,000 Canadian, which is very, very good. Thing number two that is a very, very crucial issue on the P11 chassis cars, and really any of the McLarens that are 2016 or older, is the driveline damper. I posted a whole series of videos working on this specific car to replace the driveline damper, because the driveline damper is essentially the flywheel that lives between the engine and the gearbox, and the original design in the older McLaren cars is very prone to failure. And the cool part is, if you replace it with the updated part that came in, I believe like the 600 LT and all of the stuff that was introduced 2017 and later, you don't have to worry about it. It's a one-time design, it's fixed, it's good, it's done. But if you have a car like this that doesn't have it and it fails like ours did as the second major issue that we had to deal with this car, again, it can be a little bit of a nightmare that can cost a lot of money from McLaren, but if you're willing to be creative, find your own parts like we did. We ordered a driveline damper out of the UK. We reached out to Supercar Garage Atlanta. Kevin is fantastic over there, and he helped us source the parts, and then we did the driveline damper ourselves, because believe it or not, the McLaren chassis cars are actually quite easy to work on. They're very modular. Pulling the gearbox out wasn't so bad. We had to pull the gearbox out a second time because I made a slight error in installing the input shaft seal, and we had to replace that one more time over. But even again, the first time, even that considered, the first time I pulled the gearbox out, it took me about 25 hours to do the whole job, everything, including spark plugs and some other maintenance while I was in there. The second time, I think it took me about 12 hours total to remove the gearbox, replace that input shaft seal, and put it back in. It really wasn't so bad, and these cars are truly not too bad to work on if you get familiar with them, if you're willing to be a little bit creative, and if you're willing to go out on a limb to try it. And again, that job, I think it ended up costing me about $4,000 Canadian for all the parts I needed. Outside of that, everything else that we have done to this car has been very, very minor stuff that's been user errors / minor hiccups that would be with any car. The only other issue that I had recently happen that was a little bit of a pain in the butt that I didn't make any videos on, but I did indeed get dealt with, is I had to replace the carbon front lip splitter portion of the bumper because we took some debris on the road, and here we are. It just needed replaced. It's not the end of the world. We got that done, and funny enough, again, I was able to find that online for only a few $1,000s instead of whatever absorbent price McLaren wants for that part. Because if it's OEM carbon fiber, they will charge an arm and 3 legs more than they need to. Most of the other common issues with these cars are relatively minor. They can feel like a big deal if you're paying a shop to deal with them or chase after them, but not so bad. The coolant clamps and all the cooling system on these cars are common failure points. A lot of the factory clamps are not of great design. This specific car, all of the cooling clamps have been upgraded to proper worm drive stuff. We haven't had any coolant leaks. We haven't had any issues whatsoever, and that has been all good and dandy. There's a lot of O-rings and seals underneath the engine of this car that are very common to leak. And to be honest, a lot of it is by design. It's quite funny. Some of the oil sump lines, for example, they have an O-ring that just fits snug inside the bore where it lives. And then there's a plate that holds it on, but the plate that holds it on doesn't hold it firmly in place. So the line and the O-ring can move around a little bit, and that can cause leaks. Even though the O-ring is totally fine, just the design of it can let a little bit of engine oil leak out. And we've noticed a few things like that, but again, if you're not scared and you're willing to do a little bit of deductive reasoning, it's not even an issue that needs fixed. You just need to be aware of what it is, make sure that your oil gets topped up if it does decide to seep a little bit, and know exactly what, how, and why. Outside of that, most of the issues you will see with these cars are very, very minor. A person has to be aware that these tend to leak a little bit. The tail lights like to collect a little bit of moisture. That's a very, very common issue with these cars. This specific car is not equipped with the soft closed doors, but the soft closed door latches do like to be a failure point interior wise, the 12C slash 650 slash 675s are actually fairly well put together. And honestly, there isn't too much for other issues. All the McLarens are fairly electronically sensitive, and if you're looking into buying a McLaren, I'm sure you've heard this, but they are clearable with pretty much any scan tool. Like if you get just a run-of-the-mill scan tool, usually you can clear and check engine lights. There is still some specialty coating stuff, of course, as there is with cars of this nature, but we haven't really ran into anything that we weren't equipped to handle. Like to this point, I haven't had anything that I couldn't do on this car outside of I had the suspension professionally installed, because when I did the 4 struts, the leasing company required that the car was up to snuff before I could take delivery of it, so it had to be done at a shop. And even then, they would have needed to bleed it anyhow, because I don't have an MSO equipped tool that could do the suspension bleed. But that is the only thing that I have not been equipped to do in my home garage with no lift that this car has needed. If you're looking at one of these cars, whether it is a 650S, an Mp4-12c, or maybe even a 675, it is really cool to see the spiders, because usually a spider variant of a car like this is kind of terrible. You look at a Huracan Spider. Personally, I would never consider a Huracan Spider. The interior is significantly smaller than this. It's got a rag top, and there's a lot of sacrifice to have the roof that goes down. With these cars, there isn't much. When you're driving, you notice this body line as well as this body line in here that in the other cars would not be there, but it's very little affecting of the looks compared to a lot of other convertible versions of supercars. And with this, you do not get in the coupe, but you do get in the Spider. The window in the back here, which sounds phenomenal and lets you hear this twin turbo V8 screen. Beyond that, the top folds in very nice. If you do want to use it, you do have tonneau space. This can be used for storage, which is very nice and does give you a little bit more room to keep things if you need it. The roof folds up super easy, and the usability is absolutely great. The frunk on this car, or the front trunk, is very large and very usable for what it is. Obviously, no frunk on a mid-engine supercar is massive, but this one is quite good for what it is. You get doors that go up, and honestly, the design of this car is just phenomenal. Personally, I do think it is worth the extra money to get a 650S over a 12C. The 12C and the 650S are very similar cars. There's a lot of minor updates that these got that the 12C did not get, but most of it is relatively moot, especially if you're leaving a car relatively stock. I just personally think that the look of the P1 style headlights and the P1 style front end combined with the look of the cutout style rear bumper that is optionable and is full carbon fiber on this car makes it look a million times better and more modern. The 12C, even though it is a very phenomenal car as well, they take mileage very well as well, and it is a great car to drive, I think it looks a lot more dated and it doesn't carry the same status or appeal that this does. At the end of the day, if you are willing to be aware of the potential problems that this platform has, like any other platform, namely the suspension and the PCC, namely the driveline damper, the electronics, and making sure that the car stays plugged into a trickle charger, these cars are great. I know a lot of guys that have a lot of mileage on the McLarens. They do like mileage a lot, and they are overall phenomenal cars to own. My car has been about as bad of a McLaren ownership experience as it gets with the issues that I've had, but even then, it has not been so bad whatsoever. Thank you guys very much for watching. This is Code 3 Media. There is tons of cool stuff coming soon. See you guys next time.